Hi guys, good morning again, and she's back with another episode of a lengthy and convoluted story about her headaches. Oh God, I just hope to God that some of this is going to serve somebody at some point, but it does me the world of good to talk about it all. So here goes. I hope I don't give you headaches by talking about them because that would be something. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. Everything can happen nowadays. So, yesterday, as I left you, it was, this part of my anatomy had been sort of seen to, and whatever was going on there had been looked at and had been observed, and some of it had been, had progressed some at least. So I thought, well, now I can move on and go and do something nice, entertaining or have fun, whatever. And then this side started. So I went, yeah, you could have predicted that almost. Like, it happens. I know it, I've heard it before from other people that you get a headache on one side and then as that fades, then it starts up on the other side. So maybe it's even interesting to people at some point. However, there's a couple of things that I was thinking about. And the first really important thing that strikes me is personally myself when I have headaches, like at this time of the month, which means in this case ovulation time or thereabouts or just before ovulation, I tend 3 out of 4 times to get them on this side, my right side, okay? The other side is less usual. It happens, but not so much. Or at least that's the way I've always seen it or looked at it. I haven't kept track. I haven't really written down the number of, of each of them. The right side is this eye, is the one that you can't see that anymore, but it's the side that has my eye is less perfect, and it's the strongest lens in my glasses. And my father used to have the same, or still has, for as far as I know, the same configuration with the eyes. Okay, this one's more or less normal, except it has to compensate for this one all the time, and this one is the unhappy one. So there's something genetic going on that I've never been able to get at. However, I didn't want to. I had like a question mark in my brain where maybe I shouldn't just always look for the answers or the solutions or the patterns with my parents, on my parents' in my parents' stories, okay? There's a part of it that has to do with me personally, really, this person here. So, I was kind of trying to sort of put that aside. Yes, I have to think of that because I have to remember it's not all about them. I'm here too. I have a personality. I react to things. I have issues and anger and whatever and the rest of it. So that's bound to come into play as well. So what I kind of found out is at first I actually made notes for myself because it's a bit more convoluted than the other one. And I thought if I write it down first, then I can possibly present it to you in a slightly more, clear and logical way. That would be nice. The points in my body that hurt this past night and this morning, and actually still a bit now, are all points that are linked to each other by the gallbladder meridian. So I don't really know all that much about acupuncture, but I can look it up, right? I'll put a link in the description box that I found that has a really clear description of this meridian in particular, because the gallbladder has a lot to do with supply of energy, and it can get either energy depleted or energy overloaded, and in both cases you get sets of problems, okay? So I'm closing up my bottle of ink here because I was also working on a little deck here, and I'll get back to that at some point. When we've got all the troubles out of the way, we can get back to dicks and pretty stuff, I hope. So, the gallbladder meridian, I was looking up also whether you could link it specifically to emotions. Also, in the back of my mind, trying to figure out the same thing that I did yesterday or Sunday evening with regards to the emotions on this side of my body, in my root chakra, right? Remember, where there was all sorts of abandonment and despair on that side, in a really small part of my energetic body, really, just compacted but programmed in there so strongly that it has this, like almost fanning out effect into everything in my life. Always there's abandonment on this side, there is resentment and a desperate need for contact with other people on this side. And that's something that I actually picked up again from going really close to that root chakra, and also trying to, it feels really different on that side because it's my dad's side. It really is. This side of me is my dad's side, and this side is my mum's side. So yeah, it's just that's the way it works for me. Maybe to you it's switched over or it isn't that clear, but yeah. Anyway, there is on this side emotionally, there is a lot of wanting to contact people, wanting to not really understanding why you're shut out and that type of thing, and also a lack of my father, in as far as I can see from his horoscope, he doesn't understand himself. And let me remind you again that my parents were born 2 days apart. So they had almost the same horoscope, the same planetary positions and all that. But they had different moons and different ascendants. And my mother didn't have the square between the moon and Mercury that my father had. And once I saw that, I have looked at everything like my Mercury is in the focus of activities right here. Has been for the past 6 months or so, because everything I do, everything I think about, everything I'm trying to develop, everything I'm trying to learn and express on the tube right now is about finding a new form for what has always been a split. I had to live with these two modalities in my life, these two ways of thinking, ways of looking at life, and they mutually excluded each other. And so astrology has helped me a great deal. Simple things like, do we have a square to Mercury from the moon or not? And yeah, there's more. I have videos about this on my channel, so if you're into that, you can always go and check them out if you like. To me, getting to know my dad's emotions is quite a challenge, because I haven't really seen him after, like, I was 7 years old or something, because my parents divorced at that stage. I have seen him a few times afterwards, but I had a hard time figuring out what he was about. I couldn't make sense of any of it. And there was, of course, my whole soul retrieval adventure. I had no idea what I was really going for here. Back in the day when I went to visit my father and look him up and try to talk to him, I really didn't have the tools to make that work. So I'm also very much wondering about this whole soul retrieval thing, whether that's not, making sense of yourself. I don't have a square between Moon and Mercury, except No, I don't really. I'm looking in my brain to think of it. My moon is in Aries. My Mercury is on the edge between Cancer and Leo. So if anything, it would have been a trine, 120-degree aspect. So that's probably why I'm here and I'm talking about all this stuff, because my parents could never do this. Neither of them was really able to, take the step back from yourself to look at, how things really work and what you could possibly want beyond what is given to you. My parents were resentful people. They were stuck in a bad situation with themselves, with each other, and with everybody else. So that's just where I come from, okay? And I'm not the only one. So there you go. That's absolutely part of. We're part of generations of people who have problems, okay? So the thing is, what I realized when I was looking at my father's side, at this gallbladder meridian and all the rest of it, it hurts much more intensely. It's like somebody's constantly pinching in particular points in here, and especially this eyeball. And it's much more of a nuisance than on this side. On this side, it was bothering me, but it was fairly localized, and I had kind of the capacity to sort of look at what was going on. With this, it's almost impossible, and I know that my parents, both my grandparents, had the same type of headache, and I think that most of it was on this side as well. So I don't know what that says about them, but I'm just recording this for posterity. So who knows? What I realized was that I am where on this side, okay, I could see the image that I described in my video yesterday of the sensation of abandonment and being lost in the blizzard and not having anybody to go to, really, no comfort and no home, really, and feeling very distraught about that. On this side, it was harder to get to, and once I got to this nugget of truth, like there, where I could suddenly see my father desperate for communication, for contact, for a sense of mutual, support, or whatever it is that we look for with each other, always. Once I got to the sensation on this side, I felt much better. Once I got to the sensation on this side, I didn't feel any better. None of it ever changed at all. It's still there. I had coffee and aspirin. Again, I slept really well and I did a couple of exercises. I will be, it'll be all right. It'll sort itself out later today. But there's two things. There's a hormonal imbalance going on because I'm ovulating, and that creates this tension in the nether regions right there. I don't know exactly what the name of the organs are. Where the egg comes out and all that. Always me and my gestures. But the other thing is that the pattern of the resentment, the pattern of the looking desperately to, contact in somehow I am identified with that much more. Or it has been repressed. And I think that is what really happened. I am identified physically with both sides, also with the abandonment side, but that has been more or less, that has been acknowledged. I have, done my work with that. I have gone into that, and I kind of know of myself how I feel about those things and what were the moments where that type of thing happened. where in my life, not in my mother's life, but in my life, and also in the life that we shared, okay? But the looking for contact, I interpret that as a Cancer, Moon in Cancer type. Moon in Cancer on this side, Moon in Leo on this side. Myself, Moon in Aries. I don't think anybody's ever gonna make sense of this. You know, yeah. There is a sense. There is a sense. And probably as I progress forward again and I manage to get some type of healing work done with this completely inherited and visceral and, you know, programmed into my genes type fight going on, where it's so irrational because we are fighting to be heard. We're bashing people's faces. But if you want to be heard by somebody, you shouldn't bash their face. It's not gonna work, is it? Well, that's the heritage on that side. It's a completely irrational and I think also a heritage that has a lot of, you know, where people have no real sovereignty over their lives and they're just being shunted back and forth, the populations, because that's the part of a part of that family, of those ancestors right there, were the circus people. And of course they didn't really have, they had their own little communities. And it's very hard to find out any information about those communities, about those ancestors, because we're talking 19th century and earlier. And I so want to know more about them. But yeah, that's in parentheses right there. So getting back to my point here would mean, it means that I am more physically in trouble, let me say it that way, on this side, because I have denied my identification with my father. There you go. I think that sort of summarizes it. That's, again, it's a different viewpoint. To me, it's like a realization that I am identified with my father's side as much as with my mother's side. I'll have to watch myself say this another 5 times or so, because it's kind of hard still for me to understand that I'm as much related to my father as I am to my mum. Yeah, because he disappeared from my life when I was a kid, right? So, yeah, inside, this is how convoluted and how it makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense, but it's hard to express in words, and it's hard to get a kind of a logical system. What I especially wanted to share today, other than the meridians and all that, which can be, you know, useful, or you can maybe use to apply to your own situation if you feel the need, I was going to describe what I tend to fall back on when I have this type of headache and this type of, especially in the ovulation circumstances. There's a tiny bit more that I have to go into. I hope I remember that. Is a Tai Chi posture. That's called a Tai Chi basic posture, where you just sort of stand up straight, but you don't lock your knees. Your feet are really fairly close together, pointing inwards a bit like that. And you sort of lean forward a bit, and your hands are more or less like this, facing downward. And your neck is fairly straight. It takes a bit of doing, and you can sort of Google that type of thing if you want, but I'm just, you know, for now, I'll just give you a bit of a description. What that does, the basic posture tends to, it sort of relaxes the muscles and the articulations and the tendons in the body, as well as it frees physical blockages. And what happens as a consequence of that is you get spontaneous movement. And I have not seen enough either on YouTube or on internet about this type of exercise or posture and the spontaneous movement that comes afterward, because it is a blessing. What you get is you have to learn how to do this. I suppose you have to follow a course or go to a class of some sort to really learn how to do this with somebody who's really, well trained. And then you can, sorry about the sun. The sun has come to shine on me. Shine on me. So that's pretty cool, right? I'm just trying to, my battery is telling me that it doesn't have that much to spare left, but I'm almost done here. This whole story and what it does then, the posture, it liberates the channels and the meridians and all the rest of it, and I just get way more, room to wriggle, okay? So the pressure that is really originates with my hormonal cycle at some point, and I tend to feel, I am so glad I don't have kids, you people, because my poor kids, oh my God, they would have had to do all this sorting out, because I would have been running around trying to feed everybody, and I would never have really been able to take the time to think about all this, or to, extrapolate from one side of science to the other, and combine personal experience with some type of science from the other side of the world, which is pretty fabulous, I think. I will try to find a link to a basic posture page of some sort, so that you can, I think I know one at least that I can put in the description. So there will be 2 links down there for you to look at. I hope you're free of all headaches and free of all other pain, and that you can go about your business happy and productive, and in the way that is best for you, whichever that is. And I'll be getting back to you, I think, once my I'm doing a wooden tarot this time, printouts glued onto cardboard, and they're really pretty cards, and they're a bit weird and a bit, I tend to think of this as a kind of steampunk, except it isn't, of course, because it's all bones and animals, but it's like, there's the Fool right there. You look at that. I don't want to order or pay $45, $50 for a deck when there is just so many that I want, okay? So thank you very much for watching, guys, and for being here. And we will overcome. At some point, we won't be having to suffer anymore, at all, ever. It'll all be over, and it'll still be alive. So see you again soon, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.